Karen and I have been on the road away from home up in BC for 27 days now. Every time you're out in the woods, but especially when you're gone from home for 27 days, you always learn a lot of things. In this video, I'm just gonna cover a handful of things that we've learned from our so far 27 days in Canada. So the first thing that we photographed when we came to Canada was basically an 8-day horseback trail-in trip with Backcountry BC and Beyond. Both Karen and I are shooting photos and video of it, and typically I use about 2 batteries per day. Obviously for both shooting, we were having to conserve, but we were probably using 3 to 4 batteries per day. And in total, I've got 22 batteries for the Sony cameras, and we were burning through all of our batteries very quickly. One takeaway is we need more batteries or a better way to charge our batteries in the field. Solar is certainly a decent option. You know, you can bring a big solar panel with you and charge. I've used them in the past and they're not that efficient. If you know that you're gonna be at a base camp for a whole day and you can bank on getting full sun, you know, you might be able to charge 2 or 3 batteries. One thing I want to do when we get out of the woods here is I'm going to Google and see if there's a battery adapter for the Sony cameras that you can put lithium AA batteries into. Some of my old Canon batteries used to be able to run lithiums in them. They had a battery grip that accepted 6 lithium AAs, and those things would run for days. You could shoot like 5,000 images on one pack. So I definitely want to look into that as a way to be a little bit more efficient. Because when you're out in epic places, there's nothing worse than having to conserve battery life. It always sucks when you get to that point where you're like, I'm not gonna shoot this because I need to preserve battery life. A better way to recharge or a more efficient battery, that's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is camp shoes. I've been rocking Crocs for a long time, love them as a camp shoe. Crocs are probably the lightest camp shoe. They're really easy to slip on and off. You can wear socks with them. It's really buggy up here, so often when we're wearing our Crocs, we're also wearing socks. Camp shoes are clutch, and if your feet get wet and maybe you're getting blisters, you know, being able to dry your shoes out with Crocs is huge. Third takeaway is to be really dialed with your food and your caloric needs. I'm always amazed when I'm hiking really hard all day long and just like, I mean, I legit need like 3,500 to 4,000 calories of food per day. We kind of lucked out on the hunting aspect of our trip so far, and that we tagged out on the first day. So we did like 3 scouting days, and then the 4th day was opening day, and Hunter killed a ram on that day. Thank goodness, because if the hunt would have continued, I would have had to start rationing all of my snacks. It would have been really sad. I would have probably been quite hangry. I don't really get hangry, I just get quiet and sad. Knowing what your caloric needs are and really sticking to that is pretty crucial. And the 4th takeaway is worry about the things you can control and let the rest be what they'll be. You know, you can apply this in regards to flights either in and out of the backcountry. The weather is so unpredictable in these places, and these little float planes, they need pretty good weather to fly in. And if the weather's not ideal, you might get stuck in a camp for 5 or 6 days and just sit there waiting, just twiddling your thumbs. You don't really have any control over that. It could apply to your hunt as well. You know, if you're not seeing sheep, just control what you can control, which is keep hunting, keep glassing, keep hiking. Because if you start worrying about things that you have no control over, you're just gonna stress out, you're gonna make your time miserable up here. So just go with the flow and worry about what you can control. And the 5th takeaway is when there is mosquitoes and horseflies and deer flies and everything wants to bite you and eat you, I would highly suggest that you wear 2 base layers, because 1 base layer, this guy here, this is the Core Lightweight hoodie. If you just wore this, they will bite through it and they will stab the living crap out of you. But if you wear 2 base layers, so I've been wearing this one and then a Core Lightweight t-shirt underneath, I haven't gotten bitten once. Not getting eaten alive by mosquitoes is pretty huge. In addition to that, wearing a pair of pants that mosquitoes can't bite through is pretty clutch as well. We've had fairly warm temperatures, and normally I would want to wear probably something like an Ascent pant from Sitka. It's the lightest, most breathable pant that they make. Problem is mosquitoes can get their little stingers right through that. So for this hunt, I've been wearing the mountain pants, and skeeters and horseflies and stuff can't bite through that. So I've been fairly bug-free. Head net, wearing gloves, a little bit of bug spray on your hat. That's also pretty crucial. And the 6th takeaway is when you're doing longer expedition styled hunts, sometimes bladders, you know, like a 3-liter bladder in your backpack with a hose, they aren't very ideal because they're really hard to fill up when they're in your backpack. It's hard to manage your water supply. If they pop and that's your only water source, you're screwed. Anytime I'm doing day hunts at home, I love using a bladder, or anytime it's not like super cold where the bladder might freeze, that's when I use a bladder. But then on these bigger hunts, I like to use, I always have one hard Nalgene and then usually 1 or 2 of those like soft platypus 1 or 2 liter bags. It's just easier to manage your water supply, and you've always got a backup. And the 7th takeaway is anytime you come up north or anywhere where there might be some epic fishing, even if you're paying to come up and do a sheep hunt, you should definitely bring a fishing rod or fly rod or something. Karen got a fishing license, tons of grayling, some of the biggest grayling we've ever caught, some of like the best lake fishing in the world in some of these remote spots. And you know, bringing a fly rod or a little spinning rod doesn't really weigh that much, and you could just leave it at the base camp. It creates for a more epic time and more epic meals. So bring a fly rod. And the 8th takeaway is the value of a tarp. So multiple times while we were out hunting on this last round, we just get these random afternoon rain squalls that come through, and instead of all of us, you know, throwing on all of our rain gear and putting our pack covers on, Jim, the guide, he pulled out this, it's like an older Sitka tarp, and he'd string it up in 2 minutes and have it between rocks and held up with trekking poles. And there was 4 of us on the hunt, and we would all huddle underneath this tarp and be out of the rain and fully protected. We'd hang out under there for a few hours while it rained, and then when the rain stopped, we'd continue on. So it is a little bit of extra weight packing a tarp, but the convenience and the comfort and safety is just so stinking nice. Also, if there was a rare chance, like say we were like moved up on a ram and we were really, really close, and then say it got dark and we're like we don't want to like leave, we don't want to like drop down off the mountain and hike 4 miles back to camp. Now, technically, you could just sleep underneath that tarp up on top of the mountain and be protected from the elements. Every northern hunt, every expedition style hunt, you know, bringing a tarp could be a huge benefit. And the 9th takeaway is bring a sponge to wipe out condensation from the inside of your tent. It doesn't matter what tent you have, whether it's a Hilleberg, whether it's some Dyneema thing, doesn't matter. They will all get condensation, and especially if you're in a wet, humid, rainy environment, multiple days of that, like the inside of your tent can get really, really wet. I take a little dish sponge and I cut it in half so it's only about that big. If I do get a lot of condensation in the tent, I'll just wipe down the tent walls in the morning, I'll squeegee them out, and the tent stays relatively dry. Fortunately for this hunt, it's been relatively dry. We've had a few rainy days, didn't have to utilize that one, but that is a clutch move that I did. All my tent bags in the bottom, I've got a little tiny piece of sponge. And the 10th takeaway is if you want to get really good photos of horses or horse strings, horses working in action, is you gotta get off your horse. If you stay on your horse, you're very limited. You can either shoot straight up the horse string, or you can kind of turn around and shoot backwards along the horse string. And again, Karen and I, we documented a horse trail in that took 8 days, and it was crucial to be able to jump off the horse and basically hand your horse to someone else. In this case, I handed my horse to Karen quite a lot, so she led my horse, and I'd run around and just get different angles of the whole horse string going by. So if anybody's out there going to do horseback hunts or photograph horseback hunts, getting off your horse to shoot the horse string is pretty key. But that's a wrap for now. We'll end this video with some more footage from our 6 weeks in Canada.
Don't make my baby, but don't need her.